Carl here from Metal Wani, and with me today is the gentleman behind a Grammy-winning, multi-million album-selling voice, easily one of the greatest songwriters of the last 30 years, and certainly one of my personal favourite artists also. I am stoked to be here this evening with none other than Mr. Scott Stapp himself. Scott, once again, thank you so much for your time today, man.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, brother.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. So, first off, your new record, The Space Between the Shadows, has just been released to the world, and I want to take a moment to acknowledge what a stunning record it is, and just to congratulate you and the guys first off, man.
Oh, thank you so much, man. That means a lot.
No, man, I've been listening to you for, 20 years now, and, you still got it. So, just to kick things off, man, how has the initial response, both live and online, been treating you so far?
Man, it's been overwhelming. It's been so positive. The response is it's just been amazing feedback. I was a bit shocked at first by the national pickup in the media that it got, and then the overwhelming feedback from the fans. It's just so humbling, man. You pour your heart and soul into something, and for me, I want it to connect with people, and the fact that it's connecting live, and the comments that I read, and the media outlets that have picked it up on television. My greatest wish has so far beginning to manifest, and that is it's connecting, man, and I'm very grateful for that.
I could not be happier to hear that, man. And what struck me before the record even came out, on singles such as Purpose for Pain, Name, Gone Too Soon, was your voice. Now, I'm fully aware you're no stranger to this acknowledgement, but truly, after all these years and the wealth of action your voice has seen, not only does it sound like it's frozen in time, but I'd go as far as to say you're singing even better these days. But how that sounds for us may differ from how it feels for you. Do you find that your voice presents different challenges for you these days?
I think you're dead on point. I am singing better than I ever have, and I think that has to do with giving up smoking. I think it has to do with my training regimen, running 5 miles a day. So my lung capacity is in the best shape it's been in my life since my early 20s. And then, I think finally, beginning to really study the technique of singing. My career in the early days, up until probably I would say 7-8 years ago, I was just going from sheer just ability and not really studying the proper technique in how to preserve your voice when you sing, but also how to sing, and expand your range and your style. And so I began to really work on that and hone in on my craft, and then along with the change in lifestyle. I've been sober now for 5 years, and I think a combination of all of that has given me a little bit of fountain of youth, resurgence with the voice, and I think also improved it in a lot of ways.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. And just to, congratulations first of all on all of that. And to get into the album specifically, the instrumentation on this album is credible. Giannis and the guys were on fire. But the element that had a profound resonance for me were your lyrics. I mean, man, you really do open up a vein and bare your soul on this when you share a very real, very human journey, and you pass on lessons learned with a sense of purpose. And I think it's a really great reflection of where you are today. But would this be a fair understanding, or was there something else you were trying to communicate that I've totally missed?
No, I think you're absolutely on point. 100%. I think that with the change in lifestyle, it becomes a newfound clarity, and I think with maturity, comes as a writer, at least for me, being more candid, poignant, and clear, and not, I think, hiding behind analogy and prose and poetry, and just really trying to just take things head on, and write about them in a clear and concise way, to really get across the message that I'm trying to share, whether it be introspective or self-reflection, or to share a story or a commentary, or just share something I've learned. And so I appreciate your words, man, because that's exactly what I was trying to accomplish.
Oh, well, man, it means the world to me to hear you say that, because I have a great deal of respect for how transparent you are with your own personal journey, and I have no desire to ask you ridiculous clickbait questions, but what I would love to ask you about, is your choice to present a sense of mortality on this record. I mean, you've had your turmoil, you've had your tumultuous experiences, we all have, but listening to this record, I really get a sense of a guy who knows who he is, what he's about, where he came from, and presents that all as a whole. And I think, for me anyway, arguably the epitome of this can be found in my favorite track on the record, Name, which is just so stunningly good, man. What compelled you to tell this story?
Well, it was something that just hit me one day when I was sitting on the couch and I was watching my 3 children play, and they were laughing and just enjoying themselves and each other, and I could just see what peaceful, loving, secure life that they have. And in that moment, I don't know why it hit me after all these years. I thought I didn't have that. And so I guess I had buried something deep down in my life that I now realize had a profound impact on me as a human being for a number of years. And that was the abandonment of me by my father when I was a child. I think that in going to the studio and sharing that story with my buddy, and he having the same story, we began writing, and I think it just needed to come out, and I think what's come from that story is that not everyone's going to have that same story, but I think that from a broader perspective about that song is, yes, that's my story of what I don't want to pass on to my children and what I don't want them to experience. But I think there's things in life that all human beings have in their life, whether it was something that happened in their youth or whenever it happened, that we don't want to pass on to the next generation, that we don't want to pass on to our children or to people we come in contact with. And so it's also about breaking cycles. So even if the listener can't relate to the specific story, hopefully they can relate, first and foremost to the authenticity and the rawness of what I share, but also see the bigger perspective that it's broader than just that story. That's just an example in trying to communicate a broader message.
Wow, man. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. And, as we talk about your lyrics and your storytelling, it would be criminal not to acknowledge Gone Too Soon. Because, I know it was heavily informed by the untimely passing of, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington, and Scott Weiland, all of whom you held very dear. But, that song is heartbreakingly good, Scott. And it really is something quite special. And what really interested me was the manner in which you told that story. And by that I mean, you could have approached it from potential angles. You could have been approached it from a place of pain or a place of anger, but in your voice, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, there's this kind of assurance in your voice that wherever they are, they're okay, and you'll have that chance to say what might have been left unsaid once again. Was that a conscious decision to tell this story this way, or did that kind of come quite naturally?
Both. I think it's a reflection of my outlook on life, but it was also intended. I start off in the first verse by just painting a picture lyrically of that moment in time when you find out
Right.
that someone you care about or love, you find out that they're gone. And so I paint that picture. But when I got to the second verse, I really wanted it to be a celebration and a positive remembrance of their life. And then it almost changes the way the chorus is heard the second time around. And that's when you hear the chorus as a more hopeful chorus, and at least in my opinion, and where you know that they're in a good place, and that one day you'll be reunited with them, and because we can't, of course we're going to feel that pain, but we've got to have hope, man. We've got to have hope, and so it was important for me not to wallow in the pain, to address it, but to also acknowledge that in the end we will share the afterlife together.
And that is an amazing approach to that song, and just really kind of sums up one of the many reasons you're held in such high regard. So thank you for sharing that with me, man. Seriously. I remember watching an interview, and you said something that stuck with me. I've been excited to ask you about. You said that when you're playing live, performing songs from across your solo career, as well as songs from Creed, that you don't necessarily sing those earlier songs for you anymore. What was it that you meant by that, man? Because that really stuck with me.
Well, my fans want to hear them. But what's unique about that is that I still connect with them emotionally, just in a different way. My life experience and maturity and growth has connected me with the songs I've written in my past and those Creed songs in a deeper and even more meaningful way, because I've lived more life. And so even though I thought, in my earlier, younger days, what inspired some of those messages was so heavy at the time, it was so trivial looking back compared to what real life that I would end up leading would be. And so, yes, I play them because I know my fans want to hear them. I think they expect to hear them along with the new material. But I still do connect with them on a deep emotional level.
That's really cool, man. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I know you've had a crazy morning and you've still got a lot to go, so I'm going to leave you with this, man. You played a really integral part in shaping the soundtrack, to rock in the 90s, and are still making new and relevant music today. But I love it because when you're asked who Scott Stapp is, you say a husband and a father. And I love that. And with all that in mind, one day, hopefully many, many years from now, when you look back on it all, what do you hope the legacy of Scott Stapp will look like?
Of course, like you said, a husband and a father, but also a survivor, and someone who took parts of his life that were a mess and turned it into a message to help others going through similar things, to bring hope amidst others' pain, and whose music had meaning and connected to people on a very deeper and personal level, and impacted their life in some way. I hope it's a combination of all of that.
Amazing, man. Scott, it's always a pleasure and a privilege to be able to hang out and talk life, love, and music with artists, but once in a while it really is a genuine honor, and this has been one of those times, man. So thank you so much for your time. I wish you and yours only the best for 2019 and beyond, my friend, and I really hope to catch you in Dublin sometime soon.
Oh, thank you so much, brother, and look out for it. We're going to be making an announcement about Europe soon, and we'll definitely be there in 2020.
Can't wait, my friend. Looking forward to hanging out again.
All right, great talking with you, brother.
You too, brother. Have a great day.